Because we have a great guest today, which I'll get into in a little bit. But first things first, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Mark Kostovsky. I'm the founder and CEO of Minoan, and I'm thrilled to be the host for today's session. This is my first time hosting a Minoan webinar, so we'll see if the marketing team invites me back or not. Before we jump in, I'd love to know how many Minoan members we have on the call. If you are a Minoan member, just please drop a note in the chat. I always love to see how many folks are familiar already in the platform versus how many people are sort of in discovery mode and learning more. Great. And a showroom mention. Loving that. Okay, perfect. Love to see that. Well, appreciate you guys all hopping on. We have a great guest. And then just for anyone who's new to Minoan and not familiar with Minoan, we're a free centralized ordering platform that allows hosts, property managers, designs, and boutique hotels to furnish and replenish their spaces with top brands on a budget. We have this large belief that brands and suppliers should view hosts as four-walled influencers, and that the economics should be different, that you as host should get much better pricing than anyone else out there, because you're actually creating real world experiences between people who are staying in your properties and these brands, these shampoo brands, these mattress brands, these linen brands. And so we built the whole platform around making sure you get the best price and the best optionality there. Who I'm really excited to introduce is our special guest today, Sean Breuner. Sean is the CEO of AvantStay and has nearly 2 decades of experience in hospitality, real estate, and technology. And he's here to share some insights on how AvantStay uses technology and really these experience-driven stays to shape the future of short-term rentals. And just a few housekeeping items before we get into the good stuff here. The chat is open, as you guys have seen. If you simply want to react to takeaways, you can do that. We're also going to have a Q&A towards the end of today's session, so you can put any burning questions into the chat, and we'll try to address as many of those as we can. Everyone's muted by default. Please remain muted throughout the presentation. All right, so let's get started. So Sean, thanks for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on. I think, I just came back from the Unique Stays Summit in Austin, Texas, which was a summit for people who are creating really unique, bespoke experiences in this industry. And one of the big topics of conversation with this group, is about 30 folks in the industry, was how do you, there's such a focus on quality. Quality wins, especially today, and you and I were talking about this. And there's a big discussion around, well, how do you scale quality? Like, we're trying to create quality in these smaller spaces. How can you maintain that when you get to 10 to 15, 20, 30, 40? And I know with AvantStay, you guys are up at, I think, 2,500 properties in network and still at, I believe, 4.8 stars, 90,000 5-star reviews. I'd love to, get into that a little bit today, because I think you have figured it out. How do you scale quality, which is something that had come up with this group last week quite a bit. And so just to introduce yourself, Sean, would you mind just giving a little bit of background on your background, how your career started, and then we can jump into sort of a quick overview in AvantStay, and we'll go into the Q&A.
Yeah, you bet. And I think that is, you kind of hit it on the head, which is quality at scale is really challenging, and we've learned a lot over the last 7+ years. But if you can do it, there's a lot of benefits to the customers on both the demand side, and then obviously on the owner side, and driving ROI and returns. So I know we'll get into that a little bit later. My background, I've been in real estate for over 20 years. I worked on Wall Street in tech banking for a number of years, and then built software. So our last company, we sold to LinkedIn in 2016. So kind of taking tech-enabled real estate businesses, which were the first 10 years of my career, and then combining that with really a passion and love for travel, which I'm sure every single person on this Zoom has, and growing up in a huge family, four brothers, 25 plus cousins, lots of aunts and uncles and godparents, kind of led us to this opportunity of group travel and really elevated stays, and elevated stays that are affordable. So you take, really a finance lens to the industry, and you look at how, expensive hotels have become. That was always where Airbnb and short-term rentals came into the space. It became an affordable way for people to travel and to access some of the best locations in the world. Now the industry has evolved to a point where not only does it have to be affordable, but it has to be exceptional. And I think that that's the exciting part about where we've gotten with the scale, with the quality, is we've had to meet the demands of the consumers. No longer are the days of throw up a listing on Airbnb, on Vrbo, and let it print money. You really have to develop a unique and differentiated experience-driven stay. And I know that we're going to talk a lot about that today, but you cannot deliver a commodified product in this day and age. And it's not just the analog, right? Which is where Minoan has been exceptionally helpful to us and to many of our partners. The analog component is, what does the in-home amenities and design and experience look like? And then there's the digital, which is, how do you create digital service offerings through a horizontal operation? What I mean by that is, single family residential is operated horizontally with remote operations. You may have a lot of people in market like we do, but you're not at the site, at the home every single day like you would be with a hotel. And so that's where we always felt technology would come into play and really deliver a more automated, seamless, and certainly elevated experience. But without question, you still need, people at the properties every single day, providing the support and services. And so how do you create a more efficient operation to ensure guests are having an amazing time, which then translate obviously to delivering a higher ROI for homeowners? So complex industry. I think hospitality at its core is very holistic, and you got to do everything right. And that's the difference of where we've gotten today. Is it is not easy, and you got to do everything well to make the customer happy.
Totally. I think what you just outlined is such a big real estate and hospitality are like, hospitality is almost a subsection of real estate in my mind. And there's some people that have gone into hospitality with just a real estate lens, which is sort of, what is the asset? Where is it located? What are the core features? And I think that's a lot of people who are in the industry and following the industry know that supply has outpaced demand over the last couple of years. People were making a lot of money in short-term rentals. And so what happens? It pulls in more demand. People who had long-term rentals or other assets, fix and flips, they said, we should get into this industry. People are making money hand over fist in short-term rentals. And in the last few years, as there's been more competition, there's been sort of a K-shaped recovery of short-term rentals after COVID, which is like, some properties are still crushing it and doing really well, and some markets and some properties are really not doing so well. And I think everything you've described is why hospitality is not just real estate. It's a subsection. It's not just about the asset you purchase and the box and the walls and the amenities it comes with. It's what you do with that property to bring it to life, and using technology to deliver. Technology at its core reduces friction. It automates things and makes things smoother. And so using technology to deliver great guest experiences, I think, is so important, and clearly something you guys have done really, really well. And would love if you could walk our audience through. I know you put together a few slides here. Would walk the audience a little bit so they can learn a little bit more about AvantStay and what you guys do and how you approach the market.
Yeah. And just one comment on the tech piece. I think technology is important to scale and to deliver a differentiated product long term, but at our core, you have to do the basics right. So property management, cleaning, service, and that's where technology really allows you to kind of differentiate once you get to scale. and create that quality, but also create certain services and levers of what we call a hotel in a home. We always say, how do we take a hotel experience where you have people sitting at a hotel all day, every day, and bring that into the home? So I don't want people to think that technology is the answer to delivering a great experience, because there are some amazing operators that are local and regional that, you know, leverage off the shelf technology or limited technology and still put together an amazing experience. Our thesis has always been, can we do that at scale nationally to provide even more benefits for homeowners and guests? So we'll get a little bit into that. But certainly hospitality at its core is still very much, you know, a boots on the ground. It's still very much an experience that's driven by the people that you have. And so if you give them better tools to deliver a better experience, that obviously helps. But appreciate all the intros, Mark, there. I think, you know, certainly we've known each other for a number of years now, and we've seen this industry evolve and grow and boom. And yes, there is saturation, but where there's not saturation, I think, is for the differentiation, right? You do not see an oversupply of unique and differentiated assets. And Mark was just at this incredible project called Onera, which was out in Texas. And boy, have they done an amazing job of differentiating. And so investing into that differentiation is something that we help out with, and certainly is something that Minoan has been a backbone for many folks like ourselves. So who are we? Let's start there, right? Because I think we've talked a little bit about who I am and some of the experience and how we got here, but AvantStay at its core, we are a property management company. That is what we do. We manage short-term rentals, nearly 2,500 and 140 plus cities, and we are the #1 rated national operator in the country. 4.8 stars, 90,000 plus reviews. And so what we built this for, we designed it really for delivering an elevated experience that's affordable. And it always shocks me because the average price of an AvantStay home is $1,000 a night, and the average number of people is 6. So that is about $150 a person per night to stay in a multi-million-dollar property that might be, you know, on a ski mountain, or might be on the beach, or it might be in the desert on a golf course. And so it always blows my mind how we're delivering, you know, this 5-star, and a lot of people are, experience that is similar to a 5-star hotel experience, which costs $1,000 per night. And so this is where we think the opportunity in the market continues to exist, is that $1,000 a night stay should really be $3,000 or $4,000 a night. And I think over time, as you build in services and educate the broader community and customer base, those prices are going to come up significantly. My own mother did not stay in an AvantStay until about 4 or 5 years in. And finally now she's shifted from hotels to staying at homes. And growing up in a big family, you know, it was always, you know, chasing people around to hotel rooms and knocking on doors and wondering, you know, why Josh and Jake are late for dinner and they're not in the lobby. And we always joked about it. And once we stayed at a vacation rental, you know, much easier to find them, but also just a much more enjoyable experience. Now, the issue was when we stayed at some, the experience was incredibly inconsistent. So what we've done is create consistency while elevating that experience. And what that has also translated to is higher ROI for homeowners. So there's a number of third-party kind of providers that have come out with data, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the deck here. But generating revenue and net income for our owners has always been a product of delivering an elevated experience for our customers. So we're on 60 different distribution partners. You know, here's some of them, right? So whether it's Google or Capital One, you can actually use your points now. And Capital One is an investor in AvantStay, a sizable investor. We will be on Marriott Homes and Villas. So we were one of the first 10 that launched on Marriott. So you can use your Bonvoy points, which I'm sure a lot of people have used. You know, historically, it's been around now for I think 5+ years. And then Hyatt is coming out with theirs, which really is launching and scaling later this year. You have things like Amex, American Express, Global Travel. So we think that delivering your home to 60+ distribution partners and automating that through price parity and really listing quality is a huge part of delivering outsized revenue and returns because not everybody that travels is going to want to book on Airbnb and Vrbo. Some people want to use their Marriott points. Some people want to use their credit card points. Some people are booking.com, which is the largest OTA provider in the country, right? And so the way that we think of our business is we are to Airbnb and Vrbo as a Marriott would be to an Expedia. And I think that's an important distinction, because the brand that we're building is really a short-term rental, an elevated luxury short-term rental experience in larger group-centric homes. And we do that, and we leverage these OTAs to really kind of, deliver our product across many different distribution channels. So a question for you, Mark, would be, what is your favorite hotel brand in the world? One of your favorites.
Yeah. I've gotten spoiled, I think, when you get into this industry. Like, I used to just be sort of a cookie cutter hotel guy, but I really like Aman, I think, is a huge aspirational, just incredible brand. And then there's like a smaller boutique operator in the Northeast. I saw a lot of people in here from Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine. I think Lark Hotels and their Bluebird brand, I think they do a really, really good job as well.
And let's say, yeah, great answer, and agree. And let's save the question, the Marriott question, Holly. That's a great question. So we'll save these for the end, but I will definitely answer that. So then, what's your favorite short-term rental brand, Mark? What do you use for, when you think of like short-term rentals and booking?
Yeah, I think of the platform. I think of Airbnb, I think
Right.
of the platform.
And by the way, we did not plan this, so I'm putting Mark on the spot, and he's answering the questions exactly how I would hope. But when a lot of people say Airbnb is your favorite short-term rental brand, and then people go into Aman and Four Seasons and talk about the hotel brands. There's 70 multi-billion-dollar hotel brands in the world, and then I ask, well, why is Expedia, Mark, not your favorite hotel brand?
Yeah, that is a good question. Why don't I use Expedia in the same way? I think because there's such variety in hotels that there's a trust factor of like a brand you've stayed at and a consistency. And so with Expedia, I'm kind of like, I don't know, I've gotten like burned before where it's like work travel and I book a random hotel in San Francisco and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like in the middle of the Tenderloin, and so usually I think there's just trust with the brands on, the hotel brands that deliver consistent experiences.
And so I think that's you hit it right on, which is Expedia delivers kind of, distribution to all these different brands. And Expedia does not control the in-home experience. And so the issue that we always felt with Airbnb was they were not controlling the in-home experience, but they were a platform that could create a cottage industry of massive brands. And so we're one of the first and largest brands in the world now that sits on Airbnb. The same way that Marriott is one of the first, or definitely one of the first, one of the largest brands that sit on Expedia. So Marriott leverages Expedia and bookings to book hotel rooms the same way AvantStay leverages Airbnb and Vrbo. Airbnb, while it is a powerful brand, it is not your traditional hospitality brand. It's really a tech platform to deliver branded experiences. And we think that that's where, AvantStay is headed, is really to become the brand that distributes across all these platforms, that controls the consistent and high quality experience. Thank you for that, Mark. So here we are. We have, these are just some of our reviews. Reviews are everything in our industry. And I think that when you look at what a 4.8 means, it means that 19 out of 20 stays have to be 5 stars. And that is not easy to do, right? And we've had everything from pandemics to hurricanes to fires. HVAC units obviously go out. You have windstorms. We've had tropical storms. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. And so to get 19 out of 20 right doesn't always mean that every stay is perfect, but your reaction. So be as proactive as possible, but then, be reactive to your guests and customers' needs in real time. So we do that through a CSAT, which is what is your customer satisfaction rate, which ours is above 90%. And then here's, kind of the ultimate review rating at scale with 90,000. Here is, how we think about, how are we doing for homeowners? Now, obviously you have to have care for your home, but if you're getting incredible reviews, usually it means you're caring for the home, because the guest is going to come in, and if the home is not cared for, they're going to complain, they're going to give you a low review. And so this for homeowners is how we generate income. And this was a kind of a data set that came out from Revity, which is one of the top third-party providers of revenue and data. And they came out with this analysis that we do anywhere from 23 to 56% higher revenue than traditional operators. And that is because, not just because we have 60 different distribution platforms. It could be revenue management, it could be concierge, it could be reviews. So a lot of different factors, but as we kind of touched on earlier, holistic approach to hospitality. You have to do everything exceptional to make the flywheel work. Here is a good example of design upgrades. So this is kind of simple stuff, but it's expensive and critical. So if your house looks like one of the top 3 photos, you're probably not generating anywhere near the income of the top quartile. If your house looks like the bottom 3, you have a shot, right, from an interior design perspective. Now, again, you still have to have great reviews, great service, great outdoor amenities, but this is a critical piece. If not, besides the house being perfectly clean, this is one of the most important parts of generating outsized income. You have to have a beautifully designed house that is set up for groups. And one thing you'll notice here that I always love is when you list your property for 10 to 12 people, let's say, you cannot have a 4 or 6 person kitchen table. You cannot have a 2-person table outside. You have to have 10 seats. So there's design for living, and then there's design for hospitality. And there is a difference. And the way that these homes were built from the ground up were really designed for living. And now we have to take a form factor that was designed for living and turn it into a hospitality experience. And I think that's one of the big evolutions of the industry today. Here's the outdoors. And obviously a lot of the furniture outdoors and the photos, this matters. The 2 houses up top nearly doubled their income once we added these outdoor amenities. So they went from 250 to about 400 to 450 in top line revenue. So the bottom, we tested a putt-putt, and a bottom left, and the bottom right, pickleball. Pickleball is the #1 highest ROI producing amenity that you can add right now in the country. Now, will that last? I don't know. It is also, you need space, you need room. We'll go through some other stuff like hot tubs is kind of an easy win that doesn't require you to have, a big parcel of land. But if you do, pickleball is becoming one of the most searched amenities in the world, and people will pay up for that. So now we can kind of think about, what does hotel in a home mean? Okay, well, you have your analog experiential amenities. Concierge services, for us, we always felt like in order to deliver hotel in a home and to match our hotel experience, you have to have chefs, you have to have massages, you have to have, a stocked fridge. One of the things that I never liked about vacation rentals was when you stepped in the door, you're then off to the grocery store, you're off to Costco, you're buying your cornhole set. So now you're spending hours getting ready for the vacation on vacation. And if you're checking in at 4 p.m. on a Friday and out at 11 a.m. on a Saturday, you only have 40 hours. And if you spend 5 to 8 of those getting ready. And so at AvantStay, what we said was, you can have a click to touch setup within our mobile app. It all feeds in and delivers directly to all of our partners. And so you can have a chef waiting for you on Saturday night. You can have your fridge stocked, and there's nothing better than opening the doors and seeing the fridge stocked. And then you can just start your vacation the second you walk in the door. And what families love is they show up and they have, their beach toys. And instead of going and spending $50 to $100, which is a waste of money, because, we'll have those beach toys for each, guest or family or group that sets up, you end up, just having a much more seamless experience. So concierge for us, we are doing now, kind of millions of dollars of bookings. We do not make any money on concierge. It is basically a loss leader for the company, and we do it to drive nightly rates. Sometimes we use the example of Grand Waialeas next to the Four Seasons in Hawaii, in Maui, and the ADRs, the average daily rates, are double for the Four Seasons. Same beach, similar pool. Hotel rooms are pretty much the same for the most part. In fact, I think Grand Wailea hotel rooms are slightly larger. The difference is service. And in hospitality, service will get you very far, will get you much higher rates. So we think that Concierge, that platform, takes everything that you love about a hotel and brings it into the home. And the only way that you can really do that is by building a DoorDash distribution engine or an Uber distribution engine, where you build out logistics through technology, where you can automate through third-party partners in these local regions to say, hey, the fridge will be stocked, and here's what I want. Here's your barbecue package. Massage will show up on Saturday afternoon. Chef will be there Sunday for 22 people. And automating that digitally, and then support through our concierge teams has been a big part of driving ADRs higher. So here's just an example of a house. I mean, I think the house itself is probably what you would consider an elevated house. So this is like, you have your 2010 to 15 Airbnbs, which were kind of just a nice house, like in Scottsdale. This one's in Scottsdale, and that works. And then your late teens were kind of, let's add the basketball, let's add the golf, let's add, nice furniture and a pool. And then as you started getting into post-pandemic, it's really been about how do you complement all of that now with services and automating some of the digital experiences. And all of this has to work seamlessly, within one envelope. And then the support from the team, on the ground is a critical component here. So that was kind of, everything we had. I think, today, the idea was really to kind of showcase how, spending the time and effort to differentiate the experience that you're delivering is the game changer. The industry has never been bigger. It continues to grow exponentially. And the folks that came in to kind of, see if they could be successful, or came in temporarily to throw up a short-term rental without a lot of, love and care and effort and thought, those will be kind of weeded out. And the folks that will win are going to be the ones that differentiate and create very unique stays. And that's what we've seen. And we have never been more bullish on the industry at large, and just watching, how that differentiation can lead to really incredible returns.
Totally. I know we started this by talking about the importance of having stays be unique and differentiation, but yet it feels like there's almost a polarity where it's like unique and scale, where it's like, well, how do you scale it if it's unique? That's the hardest thing to do. And I think you've just shown that you've been able to drive performance in the form of reviews, in the forms of ADRs and revenue, and still deliver these very differentiated, unique experiences. I think one of the things that you guys have just done really, really well is who your customers are. And really, as far as I've seen, really tailored towards group travel, which I also think group travel is where, as you said, like short-term rentals are really well positioned versus hotels, because you can get a whole house versus the more people traveling together, hotels get, like linearly more. So you got to get just as many rooms, whereas with a short-term rental, you can pack more people in. I'd be curious, I'd love to see people in the chat. How many of you are tailoring to groups? How many of you have 4 or 5 bedroom homes, or many beds? Because I want to know if this line of questioning is relevant for the folks who are dialed in. But I'd love to hear, Sean, how you think about like designing a unique experience for your customers specifically, starting with the customer and working out. And I think you've given a few examples here. It'd be really helpful to hear how you drive the team to really think about that.
Yeah, so I think you when you look at the fastest growing segment of hospitality, it's all the data shows that group travel is the fastest growing segment of hospitality, and by far and away, it's the fastest growing segment of short-term rentals. And why is that? Because a group experience, when you wake up and you get to cook, breakfast in the kitchen with your family, or, you get to sit outside by the pool, and some of the, even just the basic stuff of like, how do you create mid-stay cleans, right? How do you create a clean on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday to support a family? But that group-centric differentiated approach is you get more privacy, is very unique relative to hotels. For hotels, if you're a couple, you're not going to rent a 4 or 5 bedroom house. You're going to go stay at a hotel because you love the lobby bar, you love the rooftop pool, and there are, don't get me wrong, there are certain areas where hotels win. I don't think, for the most part, that and some groups like to stay at hotels, but and certainly for conferences, hotels can be helpful. But by and large, group travel in the short-term rental space is the winning segment. Now, how do we think about the experience? So it all starts from the booking, right? So you have to have an exceptional booking experience, what we call the pre-stay experience. So the booking experience with, how seamless is it to either split payments or process payments? Now you can go on to Apple Pay. I think Apple Pay is one of the best features in the world. Allows you to just kind of seamlessly pay. And so some of those unique features up front where you can visualize the experience in the home. So all of your photos should be staged. It should feel like you're in the experience as you're walking through that listing. There should be a story there on the listing. So your pre-stay experience is critical. You should have group travel insurance. We're the first company to deliver group travel insurance for short-term rentals. You can insure your trip now. You can even finance your trip through a phone. So that pre-stay experience is critical. And then, the follow-up as you lead up to your stay. So what does that mean? Support, whether it's concierge, whether it's golf tee times, whether it's restaurant, whether it's the chef or the stock fridge, the things that we talked about that we call value-added services, which is really concierge, is a big part. And how does that set you up for walking in the door and starting your vacation? I can't emphasize that enough, because the last thing you want to do as a guest is walk in the door and start working to set up your vacation. So that's something that we obsess over. We obsess over walking in the door and starting your vacation right away. And then obviously in the home, there's always things that will happen. There's always things that will go wrong. So having boots on the ground and having support and having the ability to log on to Wi-Fi that we test in every home every single week, and know that you have 100 megs and you have Wi-Fi access by the corner of the pool where you might be sitting outside. And we even joke about, one of the coolest things for families is you can sit outside and have a glass of wine at 10 o'clock at night, and you can have the baby monitor sitting on the table out back and the baby's inside, and that is legal. But if you do that with your hotel room and you're downstairs at the lobby bar with your baby monitor with the baby in the room, that is illegal. So there's a lot of flexibility around having a private controlled space. And some of that experience is there's some education that happens there, where we show you through, the booking experience on the mobile app, what you can order in-house as you're staying there, and some of the support that we provide, if you want to text us, within the reservation, while you're staying at the house. And then as soon as you log into the Wi-Fi, all of your members of the house now have access to AvantStay and our support. And we feel like that's a big part of it. Like, your customer is not the person who books. Your customer is each individual at that property. And sometimes we lose sight of that. And so being able to engage with those folks is really critical. And then post-stay, creating loyalty, right? Marriott is worth a lot of money because, and it's an exceptional hospitality brand and arguably the best hospitality brand in the world, because of Bonvoy. It's the same reason why everybody probably, focuses on one airline. Like, loyalty and points is a big part of building brands in the hospitality space, and giving people the opportunity to upgrade or to, kind of leverage points and have that preferred treatment. We have VIP guests, VIP stays, provide really, amazing welcome packages that are localized to the region. But that's the future of the industry as well, is how do you create scale to offer not just, a better experience with more partners and better service, but what about an upgrade? Like, what if you could come to a market, which we've done countless times, and you booked a 4-bedroom and we have a 6-bedroom available, and we could say, hey, do you want an upgrade here? And so there's a lot of benefits to scale as we think about this longer term. And even our homeowners, AvantStay will support certain credits for them to stay at other portfolio companies. We'll cover that because they're paying, we're paying the other owner full freight, full rate, but we're covering the delta to kind of support owners to try the AvantStay experience. That's a big part of how we think about the future. But yeah, I think pre-stay, stay, post-stay, you have to nail all three to deliver, kind of that experience. And I think hotels have been doing it for, a long time, right? I mean, and they've done a great job of engaging with you pre and at the stay and then post-stay. And it's even more important when you have kind of a home where you may never see that guest. You may never see the guest. Some guests love to show up, punch in their code, go into the house, start their vacation. They like that privacy. Some people like to be greeted, and some markets even require you to do it. But at a hotel, they see the guest every time. They check in, they see the guest. And so you have to really deliver even a higher quality experience because your touch points are less frequent.
Totally. Well, we got a lot of questions. I was going to ask a few more myself, but we have a lot of questions in the chat. So I want to make sure we get a chance to get
They're
those
more important than you,
answered.
Mark.
They are, yeah. So I will hold my questions for a later date. How do we want to go through working through the questions, team? I know I think Holly had asked one earlier, Sean, that you had called out about working.
Yeah, I think it was one of the
like
first ones.
like channel conflicts, like if you sign
Yeah,
up
so I'll go to the
Marriott.
top and we can tick through. Yeah, it was Marriott made us sign something that said we wouldn't be allowed to work with Hyatt. How is AvantStay getting around that? So we haven't had that issue, is the short of it. But typically if you go through a channel manager, what I would, we have direct channel management. So it's another way that our owners save money is they don't pay for channel managers. But you look at Rentals United or Booking Pal, and that's a way where you can integrate with both companies. So I would encourage you to look at those channel managers. You should not have an issue. There should not be exclusivity to Marriott. And happy to kind of point you in the right direction. But I would start with Booking Pal and Rentals United. Mark, do you want me to just go down the list here to each one of these
go
questions?
for it. Yeah.
One of the consistent complaints around Airbnb and Vrbo is that they side with the guest versus the homeowner when there are issues with the rental. Can you explain how you handle hosts and damages? Could not agree more. So Airbnb is really designed, to support the guest and eyeballs, and they side with the guest in almost all situations, right? And I think that is, something that we found a better balance. But we spend a lot of time. Airbnb is one of our largest partners. So we spend a lot of time, really trying to show them that, hey, when there's a bad guest, it's to the benefit of the entire community and platform to not have that guest continue to kind of benefit from, whether it's blackmailing or whether it's, lying about what they've done or what they broke or the party they threw. So this is a big challenge in the industry, and it's something that we're supremely focused on. I wouldn't say that like we've handled it well. We do not. We self-insure at scale. So one thing that we have a benefit of doing, we don't charge security deposits for the most part, and we take all guest damages up to $2,000 on the company. And so we don't go chase guests anymore because, as you might realize, they end up reviewing you very poorly. And I don't think that Airbnb and Vrbo have gotten up to the point where they're sophisticated enough to know who's right and who's wrong. Now, we've definitely gotten to a point where we've shown them, real data and evidence, and we collect that, and it's very laborious, but it's something that we're certainly focused on. But I think for us at scale, we can self-insure the one out of 500 guests that are not good for those damages, and it's easier than chasing the guest down for payment, which can oftentimes lead to a poor review, which subsequently will lead to a dead listing and you not making money. So it is a very challenging part of the industry, and for us, that's where scale would help, is being able to self-insure. So any homeowner in our network, we will insure through ADP, automated damage protection, up to $2,000 of guest damages. What's the going rate for a pickleball installation? $40,000, given you have the room on your property. It'll depend though. I mean, it'll be 30 to 75 depending on the market. But if you're talking traditional Palm Springs, Arizona, California is probably a little bit different. But just because of the amount of, red tape you have to go through, a lot of times in California from a permitting perspective. But yeah, you can get a great pickleball court done for $30,000 or $40,000. What's your partner vetting process when using third-party providers for these services? Do you have any advice on how to get and retain good partners for these services? So I guess the question, Heather, I don't know, can people speak? Is the question around concierge and value-added services, or is it around cleaners? Is it around, maintenance folks?
Mostly around the concierge services.
Yeah, that's tough, right? Because part of our brand that we're building requires, third parties to be, as good as us. And I remember we had a concierge early days, a concierge company that said they had a 65 NPS, and they were, very happy about that. And our level of standard is a minimum 78 NPS, which is, I think the Four Seasons is 77 and Ritz is up there as well. But the point is, like, the level of expectations have to match. And so it's really hard. And so we've spent, 6-7 years vetting, some of the best local and national. I don't have a good solution for how to do it quickly. One company you may want to look into is Key Concierge. Key Concierge does concierge across the country. They do a pretty good job, and they'll integrate directly in with you to where they will then immediately send your guest different offerings depending on the region, and it's all automated and integrated in. So it's basically what we've built, but as a third party provider for it, and they'll integrate directly into your PMS, your property management system, to do that. How do you staff up to build the experience options? What type of employee can help build that? What's the right background? Yeah, I would say there's the folks that are partner people, which is staffing up different experiences, both digital and analog. One of our favorites in Palm Springs is hot air balloon rides. People love those. There's the BMW racetrack out there. I've had both of my brother. I have 4 younger brothers. Both of my brothers have been married, got married at AvantStays. So we live and breathe it. And there's been a lot of different experiences that we've shown, that we've kind of figured out. But I think there's, the partner person needs to be somebody really good at the partner side. And then on the actual deliverability of it, concierge is a customer facing operation. They have to be the nicest, sweetest, most incredible people that can deal with people, having issues or being unreasonable, or even being reasonable. And you just have to be there, supporting. So I would say, those are 2 different types of people. Wondering how you added the experiences like a chef in the beginning. Did you mention in the description you're listening, and then having a team member go and book the vendor? I'm at 10:33 a.m. by the way, a faith story. If people are reading on, I should read that out loud a little bit better. So we've always we started with the most simple. The most simple concierge or value-added service for us was mid-stay cleans. So one of the things that people complain about is if you're staying in a place for a week, you want it clean Tuesday, Thursday, and maybe Saturday. And, we feel like that's a big differentiator early days. And that was something that you could click in the app and say, hey, I want to clean her, tomorrow. And again, we don't make money on that. And that is just a nice service to have, because what's better than coming back to your room and, you got clean sheets and beds made and everything's perfect, right? And so we always felt like that was a big driver. And then we layered on, chefs and stock fridges. We did a partnership with Soothe for massages. We did a partnership with GoPuff for snacks and delivery. You can QR code scan in their markets, to get snacks delivered. So it really kind of started with what we felt was the most, in demand, which were mid-stay cleans and chefs, and then expanded from there. And you don't have to do it all, right? I mean, there are local companies and local, kind of support folks that will come in and deliver a great concierge experience. But, then they got to talk to somebody else. It's not automated. And sometimes it can be laborious. For us, we don't do everything. We just do what we think the majority of people will want. And then from there, we can point them to local folks that are exceptional for everything else. We don't need to do, every single service in the region, but you should know, who's great at those. How are you creating a differentiated product, at least from a branding experiential point of view, when each home you manage is so massively different? Are you ever going to move towards a purpose-built product? Yeah, great question here. So the homes are differentiated, but the experience and consistency of what we deliver should be very consistent. And I think that match is key. So building a brand, you could have, thousands of different homes like we have that are all unique and different in their own ways. But, when you show up, you're getting the AvantStay experience, which is, great service and consistency and clean sheets, clean house, all the basics. Like, to be successful in this industry outside of getting great properties is nail the basics. You nail the basics, you will be very successful. And I think cleaning is arguably the hardest part of the business to get right. And we're obsessed, and I'm probably OCD with, every part of the house being perfectly clean. And I still can't stand going to hotel rooms. And now they're cutting corners and using sheets to put the duvet in, or the comforter in. So they don't even use sheets that close it off. And I don't understand that totally, because it feels like a corner. But the reason they do it is because they don't want to have to button the sheet. It's faster for them to clean the room. But to me, that's kind of nasty, to have two sheets in a comforter and it ends up coming out. And then, are you going to build purpose-built? So our first purpose-built product was delivered in La Quinta, California. It's called the Polo Villas, across the street from the Coachella Music Festival, which now you can, if you rent a Polo Villa, you can take a golf cart from the villa to the stage. So one of the partnerships we did with Golden Voice is you can actually order a golf cart because we're right across the street, and they will deliver you directly to the back of the stage. So it's a pretty unique experience. So we talked a lot about like the kind of the chefs and the stock fridges. This would be one in a region where, highly, highly differentiated, that nobody has access to. Nobody has, ever been able to kind of say, hey, Golden Voice, can you drive our customer to the back of the stage where Morgan Wallen's playing, right? And so that's been arguably one of the coolest experiences that we offer. But yeah, it's purpose built. There's 18 villas, all 5 to 8 bedrooms. You saw the pictures earlier. Some of them have, putt-putt. Some of them have, bocce ball, but they're just beautifully designed and they do incredibly well. And I think that's the future, because it's also gated. And we put gates behind each house to where you can do big buyouts. We've had 150 person, events there where people, can flow behind the gates because they're all connected to each other. So purpose built from a regulatory, from an experience, better for everyone. The city wins because they get the tax revenue. The neighbors win because you don't have a short-term rental next to them. The guests win because they can have a better experience and create more density and have larger groups. So we always felt purpose built, is part of the future of the industry. It just takes a long time to build it. And there's not always areas where you can build it. Like if you're, in the Gulf Coast, how do you build purpose built next to the water when there's no more lots left? And so there's some inhibitors to that longer term, but some of these HOAs are starting to become, some are becoming more flexible and others, less flexible. So we got 7 minutes left. I can keep answering these questions. If that works for you, Mark, just keep going unless wonderful.
Yeah, let's do it. I know you got a hard stop because you got a flight. So let's get through as many as we can, and then we'll wrap up.
We'll keep going.
Yeah,
that sounds great. And if anybody has anything they want to jump in and it's urgent, just let me know. For smaller operators new to industry with 3 properties, in a college Big Ten market, their value in creating a website to book directly, or should we focus on platforms like Airbnb, Vrbo? So we do about 35 to 40% direct. And when you book direct on AvantStay, you're disintermediating the Vrbo and Airbnb fee, which is 10 to 18%. Expedia bookings is 18, Marriott's 18, Airbnb is about 15, and Vrbo's, kind of low double digits. And so we think there's a lot of value to direct bookings because you make a lot more money as an owner, and we can control the experience better. So when you book on AvantStay, it leads you to all of the services that elevate that experience for you. Now, that being said, should you do it if you have, a couple properties? I would say no. That is a heavy lift, a lot of money, a lot of time. We spend, tens of millions on marketing to get eyeballs to our site. And so again, some of the benefits of scale allow you to kind of build a site that drives, more profitable revenue. But at a small scale, if you have, a few properties or, even 20, it's hard to get eyeballs to a site and run SEO and AdWords and social and campaigns without, having the dollars to spread across a larger group of properties. Would also love to know this. We now have 6 properties. Is there anyone? Yeah, so I would say it's 6 properties. If you're self-managing, I would avoid spending all of the time and effort, building a website. I would just focus on optimizing your listings through different channel managers, and just take the fee. I mean, that is the kind of reality is it's expensive to do websites and SEO and drive directs. But if you have a lot of repeats, then, it could make sense to spin up something basic where they can come in and use it. And I think a lot of the PMSs like Guesty, which is one of the better ones, can help you do that. How do you get owners to invest in elevating their properties if there aren't solid comps in there when you have this conversation with owners? So the question is, how do you get people to invest in elevating the properties when there aren't great comps? I think if there's not great comps in your market, you try to create tangential comps in comparable markets. So if you don't have a great, comp, let's say in Steamboat Springs, to add a hot tub and a mini golf course, let's look at Park City or Tahoe or Telluride and see how they did it. I mean, that might be one way. Usually these markets that we're in are massive, right? The Forgotten Coast and the Gulf Coast has over 30,000 short-term rentals. Smoky Mountains over 22,000. Palm Springs over 11,000. So there should be comps, but back to kind of the original thesis here is, if there's not a comp of something that you're putting in, that might be just the differentiation and unique, stay that you need to kind of deliver, outsized results. But you don't need to put necessarily a putting green into like a Tahoe house where it's on a ski mountain, right? I mean, it just Tahoe's got great golf, but it just kind of depends, on the area. You want to make sure that what you're doing, it makes sense. Right? I think that goes without saying. What do you think the magic number of guests you can accommodate is? What do you think the magic number of guests you can accommodate is? I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand that question. I think it's, we have with our homes, we can accommodate up to like 25,000 guests at a time. I think at a house, we have some houses that accommodate, 25 to 30 people. Certainly makes it more challenging, but it's also highly differentiated. Our average, as I mentioned, is around 7, and that our average room count is probably closer to 4.5. And it really just depends on the market and what, when we look at a market, like if they're limited in terms of 8 bedrooms, that's a good opportunity is to find an 8 bedroom. Sometimes there's a kind of inflection point where you get more revenue per bedroom the more bedrooms you have because of the supply limitations. We can currently host 10, but I think up to 14 4 bedrooms. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I see what your question is now too, Megan. I I think occupancy matters, but you still, just building a house for occupancy without all the experiences and amenities. Like if you take a room that needed to be a game room and turn it into a room, and you just are focused on occupancy, that's not going to work. But if you really got to kind of do both. If you said, hey, I can do 14 and have an exceptional experience with all the amenities, then I would increase occupancy, because occupancy is one of the most significant drivers of revenue performance, without question. But just having occupancy, is not necessarily going to work. Even ADU, we're thinking of finishing out for a play space. Yeah, that's tremendous. I mean, I think, and look at the market, right? Look at the supply in the market, and look at, how many properties are at 14. And if there's less that have that, then you'll end up usually in a stronger position when you increase. Creating a differentiated product for a condo. Yeah, I mean, for condos, it's really going to be, you need to have a great design. You need to get access to the common amenities. A lot of these condo associations are limiting it as short-term rental guests. So you got to open up the amenities for the guests and charge them $50 to use it or whatever it is. And then that could go to the HOA where they can make some extra money. And we've done that a lot in terms of partnerships with them. And then you got to have services, right? The same thing with the stock fridges and things like that. That is, condos are limited in terms of differentiation, but there are ways to do it. Okay, I think we're last one here. I used to boost on Vrbo, which was great. Boost was taken away. How's everyone driving more rentals outside of Vrbo? Is there anything else that's great? Yeah, so Jamie, I think, we're on 60 plus platforms, and this is where I go back to the channel managers. Look into Rentals United. They're a great channel manager. I think they were just purchased by Guesty. But the more distribution you have, the higher probability you'll have of taking bookings. And each market has a different optimal OTA, online travel agency. One of them would be bookings.com. We now do 30% of our bookings in the Smoky Mountains on Bookings. So people use Bookings in the Smoky Mountains, and it is virtually 0% in Palm Springs. And so having differentiated OTAs, will optimize you based on the market. And so, maximizing that, I think, is critical. I think the days of just being on Airbnb and Vrbo don't work. And if you look at like, for example, Marriott is on Expedia and Bookings and Hotels.com and Hotels Tonight, right? And so Marriott is not saying, hey, I'm only on one distribution platform. And I think that's important, because everybody has different preferences and different loyalty programs. I think there's about 20 more questions. So maybe what we do, Mark, is we can probably write down answers or follow up with individuals. We can certainly, at the end of this, I think we should give a contact point on both of our sides, because we would love to answer all these questions.
Yeah, totally.
And we can have each person reach out to kind of like a general message box where we can set up, responses for the design side, for the management side, whether it's education or whether it's, partnership. We're here to kind of elevate the whole industry. And so it's been tremendous kind of getting all of these. And I don't even think I got through half of them.
Yeah, you got through plenty, so appreciate it. Yeah, we will. We'll make sure I think we can get a record of all the questions that were asked, so we'll pull those out and see if we can answer them a different way. We're going to send a follow-up email to everyone who attended. AvantStay is generously giving everyone who attended $250 off a booking of $2,000 or more. So they're inviting you in to try it yourself and see how the experience is. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that. So we'll send a follow-up email to everyone who attended with that information, a sign-up link for Minoan for those of you who are not using us. Again, it's free. And we'll also make sure that we have clear contacts for people to reach out to get in touch with questions on the AvantStay side or the Minoan side. But Sean, thanks for joining and dropping some knowledge. Definitely seeing your experience here. And so appreciate you sharing that with everyone in the Minoan community and people who were able to join today.
Great to be here. I appreciate all the great questions, and good seeing you, Mark. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks. Take care.